There was this part, I got introduced to this guy from Ireland when I was using in like 97. And he was here, he was working with North America's first syringe exchange program called National AIDS Brigade. And, you have to remember in 97, like syringe exchange wasn't like looked
Oh my gosh.
friendly upon, all that stuff. And he was trying to find people on the street to do syringe exchange with and talk with them about addiction. And nobody would talk to him because he didn't use, and everybody thought he was a cop. And this girl, Bonnie, that I knew at the time, she's like, maybe my friend Jeff will talk to you. So I met him and I'm like, yeah, I'll help you. I mean, he didn't seem like a cop to me. And so he did this little film where, at that time I used to shoot up a lot of my neck. And so he filmed me doing that. And we had this conversation. Then it came into this thing of like, hey, I need to get in with some people. And so I can get clean syringes to people. I said, yeah, by this time I knew most of the people. And so even when I was using, I would stand out near the corner of Washington and Central, and every Thursday, Friday, and Saturday night, we would do syringe exchange, and I would pack an igloo cooler full of syringes. And I said, just I'll walk up and down Central, tell everybody I know that you're cool. And sometimes I'd leave on Thursday, and he might not see me till Sunday because the first stop I'd go to, they're getting high, and I would start getting high with them. But I would try and help, right? So I had this spirit of helping, and him and his family, sad thing about him is he started an addiction. I think being around it so much, he kept wanting to identify with it and he felt like he couldn't. He started
Wow.
using when he was like 40, 45, and it took him down bad. Several overdoses, and he had to move out of the country. It destroyed his relationship with his family. But all that to say that when I was in some of my darkest moments, his family took me in several times and would give me a place to stay, and I stole from them one time, well, a couple times, but they tried to bring me in and help me. And so that was having at least one person in your life kind of show you something of care and love. It means something, right? And even though at the time you don't really pick up on it, but everything culminated in like I was, on probation and deferred charges and blah blah blah. And in 2001, I got sentenced to prison, and because I couldn't do probation, I just couldn't. I was going on the run. I was given dirty UAs. I'd be on the run for 6 or 7 months. I'd pick up a new charge, and I wasn't doing it right. And the funny thing is Judge Blackmere, who died a few years ago, just was such a good guy. And this was before like this attitude was really prevalent. And I remember him just as clear as day saying, Mr. Holland, like I've had you in here and I've told you like the next time you come in here, I'm not going to know what to do because I think you're going to kill yourself. And I was always pretty honest. I just be like, yeah, I'm strung out. I can't stop, man. I don't need to lie about it. I'm fucking a drug addict. And he was just like, I do not want to send you to prison. However, I am afraid that if I don't, you are going to kill yourself or somebody else. And he's like, I don't know what else to do with you. And he's like, so maybe a timeout of some kind will help you. And so I went to prison, sentenced me to 3 years. And then I went in there, and when you're on your way to prison for the first time, it's like, oh my God, how did I get here? I can't believe this is what my life has come to. I'm totally going to change, and all the stuff that you imagine you tell yourself. And then when you get to prison, you see all kinds of people that you know and that you've done major crime with, and then it becomes a big reunion. And then I start smuggling drugs into the prison, and I get in more trouble, working my way backwards. And I went in because of my age and no gang affiliation and no violent crimes. I got sentenced to a work farm, which is like in prison, in the prison world, that is like
Total
fucking
freedom.
freedom. Yeah. And so I got in trouble there. Then I went to the minimum. I got in trouble there. I went to the medium. And then finally the warden was just like, fuck you, fuck off. You're not going to fucking deal drugs in my prison. And so they sent me down to southern New Mexico, which is a higher level security. And that's where I sat. And, my dad died during this time. I didn't find out until he was buried, but I got out in like May 6th of 2022, 2002, went in 2000, got out. Yeah. Got out, and I was like, okay, I'm just going to drink. I kind of came full circle. I was just like, I'm going to do the one thing, like I got to do something. And so it was, I tried drinking, and it was so weird. I remember it plain as day. I got out, and I was with a group of people that I knew, and this girl that I had been dating, and just total dysfunction, codependency, just horrible relationship. But we went to this bar in the North Valley, and I remember drinking lemon drops, and I remember drinking Tanqueray and tonics, and I didn't seem to be getting drunk, and I thought that I would. And all I remember is my brain telling me, this isn't what you want to do. You know what you want to be doing. You want to be fucking shooting heroin. And, to make a long story kind of short there, I relapsed and I went on like a 9 month run. And when my dad died, he had a very small amount of money. He wasn't a wealthy man by any means, but he had a very small amount of money. And he put it into his will that I didn't get it unless I was clean and sober. And I mean, this is from a guy that was sending me to AA when I was like fucking 12, 13, 14, and then dies of alcoholism. I'm like, you asshole, how dare you die of addiction and then put it in the will that I don't get this money. And so, like a good addict, I fucking went through all this stuff and I found a life insurance policy that he had that nobody knew about. And I cashed it in. It was about $68,000.
Oh
And
no.
so I went through that in like about 8 months. And at this time, I just remember telling myself, like, if I just had a place to live, my bills were taken care of, and everybody would leave me alone, I could be happy being an addict and using and shooting up, And so, be careful what you ask for, because with that money, I had that. I had a house that I never left. I was a prisoner of the house. I had a bunch of clothes that I bought that I never wore because I never got dressed. I had a vehicle I never drove because I would never leave. I was all in, and it was literally the worst of the worst, thinking that like this is the thing that'll solve my problems, and you get it, and you just feel like even more soulless, more dead, more disconnected, and you're trying to figure out like why is this not working? And so I remember I went to report to my parole officer, and back then you could kind of beat UAs, but I was getting so bad that like the money had run out. I started doing crimes again, and I was about ready to, lose this little rental house that I had with the girl. And I remember I went to the PO, and she could see it. She's like, something's not right, and she's like, I want you to take a UA. I was like, don't even bother. I'm dirty. She's like, okay. And I told her what was going on, that I minimized it, of course. And she's like, well, why shouldn't I send you back to prison? And I said, well, because I'm honest with you. And she's like, you know what? Fair enough. Come back in 3 days, and if your levels aren't low, then I'm going to violate you. And I just couldn't do it. I was totally like, I had no. Once I start using, I have no power to stop. Like I just don't. I can't. And that's my story. It's
Well,
not
she
everybody's story, but I just remember showing up to, like strung out. I never stopped, but I shot up $50 worth of heroin in the parking lot of the parole officers parking lot. And I'm just like, what? I'm fucking insane. I am insane. And so I called the trust because they knew I was strung out the whole time. And they kept telling us, Jeff, we know you need help. Like, and we're not giving you any of this money until you get clean, but we want to help you get clean. And I was just an asshole to all of them.
This is the trust for the money that your dad left you.
Yeah, yeah. I couldn't get it because I couldn't get clean. And it was only a little bit of money, but it was all the money that I thought I deserved and had. And so I finally called him and I gave him this sob story. This lady, Emily Stafford, who's like just a saint, just put up with my total verbal abuse. And I just told her, yeah, I'm ready to get clean. I was really just trying to avoid going back to prison, not because I was afraid of prison. I just wasn't mentally prepared. Like I was breaking down physically, mentally, emotionally, psychologically, spiritually. Like I just like before jail was a thing, like, okay, I got to go to jail. I got to go to prison. But now my body was just like almost in revolt against me. It's just like, motherfucker, you can think all you want, but we're not doing this shit any fucking more. So I called her and I'm like, oh, hey, I'm ready to get clean now. And I said, well, there's also this one thing. I think I might go to jail because if I don't report to my PO, she's like, I'll take care of that. And she said, give me 15 minutes. She called me back. She said, you're going to be on a plane tonight. We're getting you out of the state. You got to go to Arizona. I missed the flight because I was using. I got pulled over by the cops speeding at the airport.
Oh no.
Yeah, the people that went to pick me up and from Wickenburg, Arizona, drove all the way to the airport to pick me up. I wasn't on the plane. They thought I ditched them. They drove all the way back to Wickenburg. My case manager told them that I
That's
was,
Megan.
yeah, yeah. They just said, yeah, he's coming. So they drove all the way back to pick me up, and it was just a mess. It was just a mess. So
You got on the plane.
I got on the plane and made it. I went to this treatment center, and I was a fucking jerk to everybody. And I was just, my whole thought was like, I'm just going to get in here. I'm going to get clean for a little bit. I'm going to figure out how to use successfully. But when I get out, the most important thing is I'll be clean and I can get a hold of a little bit of that money. And, it was good. They sent me to this place. It was a place that had a couple people that just really fucking called me out on my bullshit left and right. Just like, motherfucker, you are pulling everybody's fucking chain here, and just, you need to get the fuck out. Because I wouldn't go to group. I had a really bad detox, and then I just wouldn't show up. I just hang out at this smoking pit when I was supposed to be meeting with people and talking about trauma and all this. And they're just like, yeah, we got people that want that bed and need that bed. We're kicking you. I'm like, you can't, because if I got kicked out, I'd go to prison, right? And so I turned on the, dude, I really want to be here. I just kind of played it off again. But something happened, something happened. I just, I was resentful. And so I did all the groups and I went to all these things, and not all of them were fun or easy or, even fucking beneficial to me. But a lot of it was that I didn't realize it. And so I just decided that when I get out of there, I'm going to do the one thing I'd never done, and listen to someone else for a change. And, but I knew I was going to use. I just knew it. I'm like, when I get out, fuck it. People like me don't get clean. And you'll find out that I'm going to do everything you said. I'm going to go to these stupid fucking meetings. I'm going to meet with these people. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. But when it doesn't work, I'm going to fucking call you up and I'm going to tell you, hey, this is Jeff Holland. Remember me? Remember fucking people like me don't get clean, and you can fuck off. And then I was going to kill myself. That was my plan. Like, what a fucking cruel thing to do. I was just going to overdose and kill myself. And, the short story of that long fucking drawn out fucking bullshit is that I did exactly what they said. And fucking, here I am 22 years later, still doing okay. And it was just, I was just in such a fucking dark place. And yeah, there was some unaddressed trauma and stuff like that. But I just gave myself and my brain a fucking break from thinking that I had to know it all or I was the only answer. And so, I had some previous relationships with people, and, reached back out to people that I didn't know, but other therapists during that time, because I'd been in and out of counseling, and people are like, you're going to die. And I'm like, I'm not going to die. Fuck you. You don't know me. And they put me in touch with this one guy who I used to call just in the worst states of mind, like almost in blackouts for a year. And then, I went to treatment, got back, and ended up hooking up with him again. And his name was Adon Kadiaga. And he just was such an instrumental mentor in the early part of me changing my life, that he was just this guy that would show me unconditional love and fucking hug me. And I would just fucking resist. And he would just be like, bro, you're a fucking good soldier, but you fucking lost the war, dude. Let that shit go. Tell me fucking little nuggets of wisdom. And for several years, he was kind of like a mentor that I could tell someone all my crazy thoughts and all my fucking like weirdness, and he would never judge, and he would never tell me what to do. He would just help me process and be like, well, I don't know, what do you think about that? He was a spiritual man. And I'm not a religious person. He was a little religious, but he never forced that on me. His whole thing was be like, I don't know about all that, man, but let's just not use today. And he would say, let's not use and see where God takes us. And he's like, you don't need to fucking believe in my God. He's like, but believe in something. And so I'd say, okay, let's not use today and see what the universe has in store for us. I had to reframe my thinking, because before then I would be like, that would be my reason to shit all over him. Oh, he's a God guy. Fuck him. Fuck your religion. Blah, 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 blah. You know what I mean? I always found a reason to fucking, just shit on people, shit on situations, shit on ideas as to why they wouldn't work for me, because I'm so fucking unique and I'm so special and I'm Jeff motherfucking Holland, the fucking outlaw of the century, and fucking that. You know what I mean? Just like all this made up bullshit in my head. And so met people that I used to use with who had gotten clean and changed their life. Met people who I knew from the scene back in the day, that came around and became tight with me. Marty Williams is someone you've talked to. Him and I, we always knew each other. We hung around in the same crowds. We weren't super tight, but he's somebody that I connected with. Like I said, Tommy, after I got clean, we ran across each other and just became probably better friends than we were before then. And just we become more open-minded and we become more open to the possibility of opportunity, whatever that may look like. And you start realizing that there's other people like you who've gone through what you've gone through, maybe not exactly, but who have been where you've been, done what you've done, and have come out the other side, or wanting to come out the other side. And you're just like, yeah, okay, I can work with this. And it's no fun getting clean and realizing you don't know who you are. You know what I mean? That's the dilemma. Because when I got clean, I'm like, holy fuck, who the fuck am I? I've had this identity of this person for so long, the using, partying, maybe previously social butterfly, but fucking criminal, outlaw, whatever, for so long. That's taken away from you. And the question that's left is like, who the fuck am I? And that's what you get to figure out, right? You start realizing maybe I'm not as social as I thought. Maybe I like my solitude a little more. Like, what do I like? Like, is this how I really like to dress? Is this really who I am? And you start to, delve into that self-discovery in a lot of areas of your life that, you know, some people fucking vehemently avoid because it can cause a lot of trauma, a lot of pain, a lot of bad memories, and bring up a lot of shit. And I think in some ways I was just like, fuck it, in for a penny, in for a pound. Let's fucking jump into the dark, fucking shark infested waters and see what fucking the universe has for us.
That's got to be a drug in itself.
Oh man, yeah. It's a trip. It's a trip. I've done some crazy shit, while I've been clean and like, you know, just all learning. And I've learned that like, that one coping mechanism, that one answer to every fucking question, which was using and drinking before. Now I have several other options that actually come to mind instead of just defaulting to that. You know what I mean? And this isn't like the recovery talk or anything like that, but for me personally, it's just like, I had it built such a muscle memory around the way I deal with problems and handle situations because it, ingrained by the people before me, my family, the people I hung around with, and it's just what you do. And when you build those habitual behaviors, you create these neural ruts in your mind to where it's like driving down that old dirt road that has just those two deep ruts that even when you let go of the steering wheel, they go back into the ruts. And even when you're trying to drive, they pull you back into it. And I never saw off ramps, right? And so like eventually I started realizing, well, there's an off ramp and it may not be a healthy one, but as long as I don't use, I always have the opportunity to get off at another one. So you start discovering, oh, okay, I'm not using drugs and that's great, but I'm super people pleasing or I'm a super codependent or I'm super this. And those are the behaviors you get to work on, right? It really starts to become less about the using and more about the maladaptive coping skills and the dysfunctional relationship patterns and the patterns of emotional fucking unavailability and avoiding situations that cause you emotional pain. You start realizing, oh shit, this is the work. You only have to quit using and drinking one time. This shit is the fucking gut wrenching fucking shit you have to work on daily and weekly and monthly. And then you think you got it. And then something else comes up and you're like, oh, fuck, I backslid or I did this or I did that. And there is no perfection. It's only like this path of progress that you try and pursue. And so, man, that's been some of the craziest shit of my life.
That's got to feel good.
There's
That's got to feel really
on the
good.
on the other side of feeling bad, most definitely. Like
That's
you have to go through some darkness to fucking appreciate the light. And I've, no ego statements. I've I've gone through some darkness.
yeah, you were on a mission. You found it, the
Yeah,
bottom.
yeah, yeah. And then I fucking bounced along there for years.
That time when you got out, when you had this mentor, this nice man that you said would tell you, let's just not use today. That that was a long time. Were you done with the police and the prison and the rehabs and like,
Yeah, I when I met him, I had about probably I probably had about 4 months left on parole by the time I met him and got out because I did most of my time inside. And ironically, one of the last criminal acts I did when I was really desperate was I used to steal checks and wash checks and write fake checks, but I would usually have other people do it because there were places I knew you could take checks. And I was really, really dope sick one day, and there was a Bank of Albuquerque kind of right across Highland on Central, across from the Highland Theater, and I had nothing. Like I was getting really sick, and so I just had this check, and I wrote it out to myself. I think it was like $1,200, and that was back when you put a fucking thumbprint on them. Remember that? You put fingerprints on the checks, and I said, "Fuck it." I just drove up there. I cashed it. I put my thumbprint on it, and for some reason, that thing haunted me for years. After I got clean, I was just like, "It's going to come back. It's going to be a federal crime. They're going to bust me." And so, for like a few years after I got clean, I kept thinking about that stupid fucking check, and then every time a fucking cop got behind me, I would think like they're going to pull me over. I have outstanding charges. Like I had this PTSD because, at the end, if they ever saw me driving, I did get pulled over because it was either a stolen car, stolen property, I had warrants, or they knew I had drugs on me. And it was like a pull them over if you see them type situation. And, there'd be times one time I got pulled over in the UNM area and, the cop walked back to his car and he was sitting there and it was like 5 minutes goes by and I'm like, fuck, something came up. And then another cop car comes up behind him. And that's usually a good indication that like
You're
You
in
got a
trouble.
warrant. Yeah. And fuck, I was calling my friend. I'm like, dude, I got warrants. They're fucking multiple cop cars are here. And like, I need you to come get my vehicle. I don't know what's going on, but I think I'm going to have to go to jail and take care of something. What's going on? What's going on? A third cop car pulled up and the fucking finally the cop gets out and he comes up to me. He's like, Mr. Holland, you've done some pretty bad things. I'm like, yeah, I'm a convicted felon. He's like, yeah, I can see that in your file. He's like, I was pulling you over for a traffic violation, but I ran out of tickets. So I called my other guy to bring me some tickets. And as soon as he brought me the tickets, our system went down. He said, so today's your lucky day and you get to go. And so that kind of shit traumatized me. Like
I'm
I thought I was going to,
sure.
yeah, I thought I
I'm
was going to jail almost
sure.
every day of my life for like 2 years. And, you know, ironically enough, it's funny, there were a couple new cops. This was right when the old guard was phasing out, where like beating us up when they arrested us, and needle exchange was starting to come in, and community policing. There were these two cops, Randy and Charles and Corey. They were bike cops, and they were really young. And I remember one of them pulled me over on the street one time because he had pulled me over with one of the old guard cops, and he saw me walking up Central Nob Hill, kind of like right by LaRue Nahadi, and he pulled me over on the bike. And they always knew I had syringes and dope, and so he busted me with like a syringe, and I had like a $20 piece of dope. And back then, he realized like I'm not going to get rid of your dope because if I do that, get rid of that minor amount of dope, you're going to go commit a crime to get more. So they would break my syringe instead. And I remember him telling me this like just so distinctly. He's like, Jeff, what's wrong with you, man? He's like, I don't understand. He's like, you seem like a nice enough guy, but like, what is your fucking problem? And I was like, yeah, let's just fucking, just take me to jail already. He's like, dude, you're not worth the paperwork. I'm not going to waste my time on taking you to jail. And I was like, what a new low. You won't even, I can't even get arrested now, right? And ironically
Yeah.
enough, you fast forward a couple of years after I got clean, and the next time he saw me, I'd put on weight, I'd been working out, and I'd been clean for like a year. And he saw me in a coffee shop, and he walked up to me and he's like, Jeff Holland? And I'm like, yeah, hey, what's going on? Officer. And he's like, is that you? I'm like, yeah. And he's like, holy shit. He's like, you look fucking great. What happened? And I gave him a rundown. And he's like, man, I always thought you seemed like you could be such a nice guy. He's like, I wonder what happened to you. All of us, like, you were MIA for a while, and we thought you got killed or went to prison. I'm like, no, I got clean and went to treatment. I'm doing pretty good. He's like, fuck, man, you look great. And I was just like, yeah, what a compliment, man. And ironically enough, I ended up doing some work with those guys later, some advocacy work and stuff like that. And most of them retired from the police now because it's been 20 years, and keep in touch with them on Facebook here and there, and just chat with them. And it's, what a change.
Proud of you. One day at a time.
Something like that. Yeah, for sure.
Something like that.
Yeah. So, it's just been a steady journey. Got myself a little shitty job when I first got clean. I was really ungrateful and fucking thought I was better than the job. And then my mentor is like, "Hey, dude, you haven't worked in 10 fucking years." He's like, "You should probably practice gratitude that you even have a job to go to and learn how to fucking manage your money and quit fucking bad mouthing this job. Like you're lucky to fucking have a job." And worked on that. And then, when a lot of people first get clean, a lot of people are like, I want to be a therapist or a counselor or work in substance abuse and save the world. And I kind of recognize that. And I've always kind of been a helper at my core. And I was like, yeah, I think I could get into that, but I got to do a lot of work. So I told myself, I'm going to give myself 5 years to work on myself. And if I still have that drive at 5 years, I'm going to go to school. So almost to the day, 5 years, I went into school, and 5 years later, I got my master's degree, became a therapist, and worked in transitional living, and then started working at the county detox, and then got out, and now I'm the executive director at this place called Endorphin Power Company, which is a really unique program. And then about 4 years ago, some partners and I started New Mexico Wellness, which is an inpatient treatment center and detox, and got a location in Rio Rancho and one in Taos. So just been kind of steadily trying to give back, because I don't know if one thing is like when it all comes down to it, I love where I'm from. I love New Mexico. I love Albuquerque, and I fucking I love this fucking place. It's done a lot for me, and I did a lot of damage here. I hurt a lot of people. I hurt a lot of businesses. I hurt my community, and so. At the point where I felt it was incumbent upon me to give back to the community and help do whatever I can to better it. Not out of some sick, like, self-deprecating, abuse yourself type of place, but like just like, hey, I want to live in a symbiotic relationship with my surroundings, and I have a little bit of karmic restoration to attend to, and so that's what I did, and just trying to do the right thing for the right reason, and hopefully the right thing happens, right? And so here we are, just plugging along, trying to help people. Do a lot of work with interns coming out of school, taught some college courses, just trying to help people, that's it, trying to help people.
It isn't uncommon either. There's quite a few counselors, therapists from our generation that are helping people
Yeah,
around
most definitely.
Albuquerque.
A lot of us, and you take even people like Steve giving back in the form of being an educator, you know, like that's its own special like form of self-abuse, working with kids and stuff. And I joke because I know Steve likes it. And when I talked to him when he first started doing it, he was like, I love this shit. I'm like, fuck yeah, man. That's awesome. You get it, brother. And so yeah, a lot of us have come full circle. Not everybody's traveled my path, and I certainly haven't traveled other people's paths. But it's nice to see our generation of people contributing to society and being successful. Marty Williams is a successful business owner and father. Tommy's successful, and he's got a beautiful family. And Steve, and hearing Abe talk, and just all the people that were from my generation, even if we weren't super tight when we were young. I respect everything that all those people are doing to give back to society as both like whether it's a parent or a business owner or an educator. It's good to see.
Right. Just
Yeah,
telling your story helps other people.
yeah, yeah. Share it. It's like this is kind of historical, and it's too easy to Google and Wikipedia and take a picture on your phone. And so, in a sense, like these podcasts are historical recordation told by the people that lived it. And, we're not going to have to worry about a wrong citation because Wikipedia got it wrong or someone edited it wrong. Like you've got the people telling you that right now. And historically speaking, storytellers are kind of a dying breed, both culturally and socially,
Well, that's
right?
for
Like
sure.
a lot of Native Americans and a lot of other societies as well, but I'll use Native Americans just because they're
Absolutely.
so relevant to us. Like storytelling is how you pass down history and learn things, right? And we don't do that anymore. We rely on technology to do that. And so it's important that we as people, not just here but everywhere, here it's relevant because it's us, that we share our stories, like whatever it may be, so that we have historical recordation of what happened when Grandpa was in high school in 1986. I want to hear Grandpa tell it. You know what I mean? I don't want to read it. I want to hear what he was like and see what he was about and for myself. So this kind of stuff is important.
It allows it to happen. We have the tools to record history, and I can't help myself but record it.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
the
we should do
most
it.
authentic way to do it is to let people tell things in their own words.
Yeah, it's really cool. You know what I mean? And it's like I try and do that. I mean, I'm as guilty as anybody is being a doom scroller and all that shit. But I a lot of my business, both professionally, is dealing with people on a face-to-face basis. And so, you have to practice on being a good listener and being empathetic and letting people be where they're at, not where you think they should be. And so, there's this thing that's happened over time that it's just like, yes, that's kind of my job is watching people tell their story through their actions, hearing them tell it through their interaction with you verbally, listening to them avoid telling it because there's too much trauma and stuff, and then seeing them feel a little open and safe, and then starting to break in there. Like that's the gift. The human interaction and the humanity of it all is really the gift of everything. I've been a part of the medicinal psychedelic community. We recently got
That's right.
a medical psilocybin bill passed, so I'm going to be working in that space hopefully really soon. A couple of years ago, I was on the New Mexico Psychedelic Science Society. We got to introduce the first bill that didn't quite make it to the floor, but this next one at the last session made it. They're starting to put together. It's a unique bill. It's not decriminalization. It's not legalization. It's actually a medical bill where there's going to be, provisions for having things prescribed and helping people, veterans with PTSD, anxiety, end of life situations, substance use disorder, treatment resistant depression, hopefully get some relief without a lot of the medications that either don't work, become highly addictive, or have really bad side effects. But more importantly, are available to underserved populations across New Mexico. I feel like that's my role in this whole thing, right? Like I've been glad to be an advocate and tell stories and stuff, but really I want to be the gatekeeper to make sure that New Mexicans have access to this medicine, and there's equity, equality, and that it doesn't just become this thing where a bunch of out of town pariahs come in and want to hoard the scene and jack up the price and turn it into this total thing that it's become in other places. So that's kind of the next frontier, and it'll be exciting over the next 2 years to see how all the rules and regulations are written and what kind of provisions are in there, and hopefully we can get some relief for like our first responders and our veterans and all those people.
Will you explain the science behind that for me
Yeah, yeah.
in the simplified version?
Simple terms really is I kind of talked a little bit about the way Me Getting Clean works. So, we have these neural pathways. And so psilocybin has been shown to kind of kickstart neural connections, which is like feelings and emotions and problem solving. And also, the best way I can describe it is that dirt road analogy, where like after you create these habitual behaviors to where there only becomes one answer to these complicated problems and these barriers in life and all this stuff. The only solution in my case was, using, and that was the answer to everything. And to simplify, if the only tool you have is a hammer, the entire world starts to look like a nail. And with psilocybin, it kind of can rewire your brain to where now all of a sudden I'm seeing that there are multiple solutions to problems, complex problems that used to perplex me. And that could be addiction, that could be, anxiety, that could be dysfunctional acting out in certain ways. And so we're starting to see that like creating these neural connections help people like be more present, be more aware, think more clearly, experience a less severe form of depression to where it becomes manageable. Because if your depression is like spiking at an 8 or a 9 and you're nearly suicidal, well, if you can get it lowered to like a 4 or 3, like to someone with depression, that's like a 0. And so we're seeing that it has tremendous results also with alcoholism. It's actually worked on smoking cessation. And so if we can help people refire old neural pathways, build new ones, our brains start to work a lot better, a lot more clear, and we start to figure out that like there's multiple solutions, and they all don't have to be self-destructive.
How does the dosing work on something like that? You're microdosing over extended periods of time? How does it work?
I think like right now people talk a lot about microdosing, but I think what we're talking about is what they like to call heroic dosing, which are the where you get the full effect of the medicine. And first of all, we're thinking that it's going to need to be prescribed because you're going to have to be diagnosed with one of the 5 qualifying conditions. So it has to be a professional, has to be a medical doctor that prescribes probably because that's the path that is going to create the least amount of liability is what it's looking like because we're trying to do this as safe as possible. And then we got to decide what a set and setting look like, who are going to be the practitioners. So, an example might be that like, hey, maybe I have a psilocybin treatment facility and maybe you come in and we talk and we do a lot of prep work and maybe we make sure you're not taking anything that's, counterintuitive to the medicine or going to create a reaction. And then when you're ready, we prep. Maybe it's outdoor, maybe it's an indoor space designed specifically for this. It could be closed eye with that. It could be silent, could be music. But the main thing is that you have someone there in case you go into a difficult part of the journey. And then when you come out, you have someone there to help you process and talk things through, or maybe just let you sit there. Obviously, medical observation would be important in case something happens and you feel like you need to come off it right away. But the support piece is really what they call the integration after you take the heroic dose. That's really where the magic happens is, the psilocybin doesn't fix you. What it does is it just asks the right question to where you can fix yourself. And then you use the support that you have to maybe access those answers and find those tools and those resources. So, very non-lethal, very non-addictive, and very no side effects really. And so it has a lot of promise. And I'm hoping that
Be great.
yeah, I'm hoping that it works. And look, it's not for everybody. And a lot of people are like, well, you're in recovery. How can you support that stuff? I'm like, look, I support whatever works. And it would be ridiculous for me to think that, oh, you can only change your life by doing it the way that I did it because that's the way they've been doing it. It's like, yeah, that's stupid, right? Everybody recovers in their own way. Some of it's the same, some of it's different. And we have to make a space at the table for everybody that's willing to do the work. And if that means creating more of a buffet style offering than just a 2 or 3 course entree, then that's what we do.
Well, there's a lot of medications for addiction these days that are really, really intense. Like they're heavy stuff. They don't necessarily make people feel better.
Well, they're also highly addictive, and it's like
Oh no,
I can
really?
go on that. Like look, if you went to Highland in our day, there was a methadone clinic half a block up the street, and I noticed that shit, and I saw the people walking in there, the old tecatos who used to go there. I knew what was going on, But the very first time I got on methadone, because I thought it was this thing that helped, and I remembered it because of that, I became highly addicted to methadone. And the way I got off
Gosh.
methadone was by going back to heroin. And methadone is highly addictive. And yes, you can do enough to get high. The same with Suboxone. It's very addictive and you can get high off it. It's the number one most smuggled drug into prisons and jails. There's a reason,
Oh,
you know? And then there's things like Vivitrol, which are injectable and time release that are non-addictive. And so like, not to be conspiracy theorist, but it's just like I'm very wary of, people that say that this is the best thing for it. It's just like, I've seen young little 90-pound girls on 200 milligrams of methadone that would take years to get off of, and the side effects from that stuff is horrendous. So if we can start with something that doesn't have that kind of like, side effect
absolutely.
fucking consequence or highly addictive, then why can't we start there? Like, let's save the super harsh stuff for step D, not step A.
Were you there when part of it when they legalized cannabis in New Mexico?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like when it was medical, like it's, pretty much everybody was like doing the medical because they were hoping that recreational would come about and they would be able to make their money back. Not a lot of people made money. We were just hoping that recreational would come and we could do it. But the way that recreational happened is the way it was supposed to happen is they were supposed to give all the local companies 2 years of runway. No outsiders. All the people that are currently supplying cannabis are going to have 2 years to make all their money back, all their investment back. If you want to sell your business, you can sell it, but we're going to give you 2 years. And our governor had a fatal flaw in her thinking, and she opened it up to everybody. And what that did is it tanked the market immediately. The prices dropped. All the outside big brokers came in, crushed the mom and pop stores. Then, in order for them to stay afloat, a lot of them turned to illicit product that was coming in from Oklahoma, Colorado, and the Pacific Northwest. So that further tanked the price. And so, like, it's still happening right now. Per capita, New Mexico has more dispensaries than anywhere in the country, more illicit product, and it's just really crushed all the mom and pop places, most of them. And that's because the big ones, just like Walmart, they can drop the prices enough to where they can lose money, but they have so much money in reserve that they can ride it out. And then once all the competition, except people like themselves, is gone, then they can jack the price up and you have to pay it. And so, that's kind of what we're seeing. And right now, the cannabis, recreational cannabis market here has not recovered from that in the last few
That's
years.
too bad.
Yeah, really bad. I've seen some very good people go out of business. I've seen, I personally lost a lot of money, and I've seen a lot of people, lose millions. And so hopefully they see the error of their ways, and that's why this new psilocybin medical board that they're putting together, that's going to create everything from the ground up. Really, I want them to look out for New Mexicans first. I don't want this to turn into a tourist industry. There's already wolves at the door trying to get in here, trying to tell everybody we know best because we're a big company and we have millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars and you should listen to us. And I'm like, fuck no, stay the fuck away from us.
Isn't New Mexico just like the land of exploitation? That is just what they do.
Yeah, we're one of those last untouched frontiers, right? Like we've never really been gentrified to the degree that like in Austin or at Denver or any of these other little towns and like Asheville, like, and but people see it now, and that's why the home prices have doubled in the last 8 years. That's why you're starting to see, the corporations come in and the live, work, play condos start to pop up. And look, I mean, there's a part of it that's good, but if anybody thinks that like that shit's going away, it's not. It's coming. But what we should be able to do is control, hopefully, the way that it affects the locals and not just immediately buries them in debt or, dilapidates their quality of living or turns them, one hardship away from like being on the street or being in an emergency room with no way to pay for stuff, right? So as far as the psilocybin goes, I really want to step in as a firewall, if you will, because I have my thoughts and issues on this, and I've seen too many people who are underserved and in rural areas that are struggling really bad, not get the attention they need. And I just want to make sure that this whole psilocybin movement is not going to turn into a tourist industry where only the rich and the affluent can afford it.
That would be great because many, many generations of people in New Mexico have been exploited.
Generational trauma.
Well, that too. Gosh, that's a whole other conversation.
We talked about that coming up I-25 from the south. It's like it's one of the bloodiest, pieces of or trail, highway, whatever you want to call it. That's one of the bloodiest places in the beginning of our country that existed. The displacement of native people off their land, the murder, the torture, the conversion that was trying to happen, from the Spanish coming up through trying to make everybody convert, or we're going to hobble you or, maim you. or beat you,
Enslave you,
enslave you,
enslave
yeah,
you.
move you off your land. We're going to change you from, it happened with Native Americans when they forced subsidies on them, and we literally changed their DNA. We changed their diet. So why do you think there's such a high prevalence for diabetes and alcoholism? We literally changed the food that their body had like been used to for centuries and centuries and centuries, and started telling them, here, we know we took you off your grazing land, but here, have some processed food as a supplement, and here's to
So bad for
generations.
them.
Yeah, yeah.
It's,
And it's like I see that, right? Those are a lot of my clients, and you want to see them get back to a quality of life that is rich and plentiful and safe and happy, and just a quality of life that everybody deserves, and a lot of people struggle with that.
it's really prevalent too, just right up the Rio Grande Valley into the Taos area and then the San Luis Valley. Like you can see it if kind of a
Oh
bird's
yeah.
eye view of the Southwest. If you think about it, you can see where
Hmm.
all the hardships are. The railroad came through there and then left. Spanish land grants that were never
Hmm.
honored, like
Honored,
just
yeah.
wrecked right
Yeah,
down the
it's just
middle. I mean,
it's like
everywhere else too, but
abuse and trauma compounded by more abuse and more trauma. And you think about it, it's like people were like, well, places like Wyoming and the Dakotas, they have less people than us. Why are they doing better? Well, it's because they have more resources, and they're not
we
a
have,
border. Yeah, like the Dakotas don't count. A border with Canada is not the same as a border with
yeah,
Mexico. This
no.
is a major drug running route. Like it's just different. And that's one of the things that makes New Mexico a very unique place, right? And so you put all that stuff together, and there's this like recipe for, there's a recipe for greatness, don't get me wrong, but there's also a recipe for all the trauma and the, poverty that we see too. And we have to fucking just acknowledge that stuff and say, okay, what can we do to try and make it better? And the thing to do to make it better is not to make access to like quality services only for the wealthy. Yeah. Here, let us flaunt it in your face.
I thank you for being there, for taking care of New Mexicans.
Yeah,
Uh,
I feel it's my duty. I don't know why. Not like I'm the
uh,
protector of New Mexico, but it just, to me personally, it feels important.
I feel it seems to me this is what you were destined for. All the other
Yeah,
stuff just led up to this.
yeah, I think I was built for this, whether I like it or not. Some days I'm like, Jesus Christ, I was really built to do this. And, crisis, I can slow down in crisis and process really well. And I'm just like, damn, what a hell of a thing to be built for. But it's also good to know that you found the thing that you were meant to do, right? That's kind of a blessing. And it's like, I don't feel like I hate what I do, and I'm just going to bury it with as much booze as possible.
Tell us of the places that you work and the resources available in
Yeah,
Albuquerque and New Mexico.
yeah, so I'll kind of start off like I'm one of the owners of New Mexico Wellness. It's a detox and residential treatment facility. We have one in Rio Rancho, one in Taos. And so if anybody's struggling with wanting to get off a substance, we can bring you in, medically detox you, and then offer you 30 days residential treatment. And then on top of that, we have an in-house intensive IOP program where you can stay up to 6 months and go through, just solely focus on building that foundation of recovery. And then I've been the executive director at a place called the Endorphin Power Company, which a lot of people know, for going on 16 years now. And it's mainly known for its transitional housing program, but it's very unique in the sense that it's non-denominational, and they can go on to endorphinpower.org and check that out. But we also operate a community center, and we just got the keys to our new recovery support center in collaboration with Bernalillo County. So we offer things like yoga and support groups and recovery dharma and self-defense and cooking classes, financial literacy, first-time homeowner, credit restoration, all that stuff. So it's just kind of like something I've dreamt about for a long time, which is creating this hub of services for people coming from a place similar to where I've come from, that allows them to have everything in one place. And, you can go there and use these things for free to help rebuild your life, or just gain information on something you don't know.
Excellent. You
It's
keep doing
fun.
exactly that. It's very important work.
Yeah, a couple more years in me, and then we're gonna have to look for the next young, hungry, crazy person to come up with crazy ideas like I did, and then take it over and turn it over to the next generation.
And then you'll do something else. Go ride your bike.
I like, yeah, ride my bike, just continue with jujitsu, and go travel with my wife, and do that kind of shit.
Excellent. You take care of yourself. That's what's
Most,
most important.
yeah,
Take care of yourself as everyone should.
100% self-care has definitely got to be a part of your routine, because if not, you're no good to anybody.
No, what a great story. Thanks for sharing all that.
Well, maybe we'll catch back up again, and I don't know, something interesting will be happening.
Oh, let's all stay out of the news. Maybe
Yeah,
nothing interesting will happen.
right,
That's
right.
what I'm hoping for. Thanks, Jeff. Take care of
Yeah,
yourself.
yeah. Thank you for having me, and we'll catch up soon. It was good talking to you.